Excellent. Good morning, Kahal Kadosh. Wednesday, the 23rd day of Tammuz, the 15th day of July 2020. Today's class is being dedicated to Refuah Shelema Nehamadina Bat Batya, as well as Rabbi Aharon Machluf Ben Sulika. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu give him Refuah Shelema among the Cholim of Am Yisrael. Amen. Today's class will be dedicated to the loving memory of the great Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, also known as the Ramak, the author of Tomer Devora, Pardes Rimonim, and many great Torah and Kabbalistic books. Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, just before we begin with actually learning some of the beautiful lessons that he explains in our godly relationship, in our spiritual development, I'd like to speak about the life of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero. Rabbi Moshe Cordovero was born after the golden era of Spain during the time of the Inquisition, hence the name Cordovero. Cordovero means from Cordova, which was the way we understand, a province in Spain, and his parents escaped the Inquisition, and they arrived eventually to Eretz Israel, and they settled in the city of Tzfat, in the northern part of Israel. This is where Rabbi Moshe Cordovero lived. Once we say the word Tzfat, right away, what do we have in mind? Rabbeinu Ari, Rabbi Yosef Karo, Rabbeinu Shlomo Levi Alkabetz, Rabbi Moshe Alshich, Rabbi Eliezer Askari from Sefer Haredim, and Rabbi Moshe Cordovero. Rabbeinu Ari says about Rabbi Moshe Cordovero that the reason why he left the world, he lived a short life, I think 40-something years old. He left the world because passing away, God forbid, it's an outcome or a consequence from the sin of Adam and Hava, and it's also a required transition between life and the afterlife. This was what Rabbeinu Ari says about Rabbi Moshe Cordovero. Historically, upon the passing of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, Rabbeinu Ari became something, as we know, Ha'ari Shebahabura, the lion of the dream teams of Talmidei Hachamim. So just imagine for a moment to live in the time of Maran Bet Yosef, the author of the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbeinu Shlomo Levi Alkabetz, the Hazan of Rabbeinu Ari's synagogue, Rabbi Moshe Alshich Darshan, he was the speaker of the synagogue. This is the famous song that many people know, known as El Galil. El Galil, El Galil, El Galil. This is a song that it gives the honor to this great Talmidei Hachamim. When it came to the time of the burial of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, everybody knew that he will be buried in a mountain in Tzfat, but they did not know exactly in which location of the mountain. Rabbeinu Ari says, do not worry, just follow the pillar of fire that is in front of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero's body. Obviously, most of the people that were there were not able to see it, with the exception of Rabbeinu Ha'ari. So we are talking about a giant at all levels of Torah, that despite his short life in the physical world, till today continues inspiring thousands of Yehudim worldwide. So therefore, with your permission, time allowing, we'll go into the Chokle Israel. Otherwise, we'll learn together about the writings of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero. And one of the things that we do is, especially in the Hilulah of a great Tzaddik, is to connect to the soul of the Tzaddikim. The Gemara writes, Tzaddikim b'mitatam nikraim haim. The righteous, although they are physically gone from the world, they are considered alive. And on what merit they are alive? On the merit that we learn from their holy writings. And this happens to every single tzaddik, that we connect ourselves with them through their holy writing. Today is Rabbi Moshe Cordovero. Later on could be the Pelei Yoez, and another day could be the Ben Ish Hai, another one could be Hacham Batya Yosef, another day could be Rabbeinu Hari, whatever it may be. It doesn't matter on the group, it doesn't matter on the time, it doesn't matter on the style of their halachic ruling, etc. Bottom line, we are talking about all first-class tzaddikim, and each one of them, in their time, in their generation, they were like the Moshe Rabbeinu of their generation as well. The Zohar HaKadosh writes that in every generation there is a spark of Moshe Rabbeinu that enters the neshama of the great leaders of Am Israel. And this is something that happens and will happen till the day that Mashiach arrives. We're not talking about rabbis of synagogues. Could be some of them are great, but we're talking about the major great size hachamim and tzaddikim that have a tremendous influence worldwide to all of Am Israel. And do not despair. Every generation has such a type of tzaddik or tzaddikim. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce two thoughts before we actually read from the Sefer Tomer Devora, which those who follow our classes on a regular basis, we are not foreign to the book Tomer Devora, because it is suggested reading during the month of Elul, to read every day a paragraph and to derive a practical lesson in our spiritual development as an individual, not as an observant Jew, but as a person in our behavior. And Be'ezat Hashem, we'll speak about it in a short few moments. Comes and it says, the Rabbeinu Shalah HaKadosh, you may know him by being the author of the book Shnei Luchot HaBerit, a magnificent commentary on the Torah. And the Shalah HaKadosh wrote many books, but this is one of the famous ones. And he's actually the great Hacham who wrote the special prayer that parents recite on behalf of their children. Some people do it daily, some people do it weekly, some people do it monthly, but there are some people who do it once a year. The day of Erev Rosh Chodesh Sivan. I believe that iTorah.com, in the upper right, that has the drop-down menu for PDF pamphlets and suggested reading, you'll see exactly what I'm saying, the prayer of Erev Rosh Chodesh Sivan. So, and he is, by the way, since we're talking about the Shalah Kadosh, he is buried in the same cemetery in Tiberias, next to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai from the Mishnah, and 10 feet away or 20 feet away, a bit more perhaps, from the Maimonides, from the Rambam's kever in that beautiful, completely refurbished Beit HaChaim in the city of Tiberias. So the Baal Shalah wrote, and it says, Me'id, he says, I'm an eyewitness. The Shalah wrote, Kol mi sheragil besefer hazeh, whoever studies this sefer regularly, weekly or monthly, muftah lo shehu ben olam haba, is guaranteed a place in the world to come. These are not simple words to be taken lightly. Yani FDIC insured when you open up a bank account in any Bank of America. I don't mean Bank of America Bank of America, the bank, talking about any Bank of America. Some countries of the world don't really have FDIC insured, and the banks do have the power to freeze all your liquid in your bank account because they have a different set of rules, and even the government, etc. But in America, we understand a person goes to a bank, or you can open a bank account online today, and they tell you FDIC insured up to certain amount, etc. per account. Interesting. But we are better than this, because the only thing we need to do is to read the Sefer. The question is, why the Shalah HaKadosh gives such a guarantee? The same thing we learn when it comes to learning halachot. This is part of our daily prayers. Kol hashoneh halachot b'chol yom muftach lo. Same language. Whoever learns halachot every day, guaranteed a place in the world to come. What halachot and the book Tomer Devora have in common? That both of them have the same guaranteed return, which is unbelievable. Short answer: both statements create a direct connection with God. In the halachot department, basically halachot means from Lashon holech. How do I walk in my life? What is my goal? What is my direction? My direction is the code of Jewish law. That's beautiful. That's excellent. Then we have the Sefer Tomer Devora. Guess what? The Tomer Devora Sefer, in a way, it's based on an interesting pasuk in the Torah that says, Vehalachta bidrachav. We will walk in the footsteps of God. And we'll discuss this in a minute. But at the end of the day, Ben Adam Lamakom is the morning prayers. Kol hashoneh halachot bechol yom. Whoever learns halachot daily. That's why many synagogues in the world, including ours, before Alenu Leshabeach, before Tana de Eliyahu, you read one or two halachot, we explain one or two halachot, so this way we fulfill this Talmudic requirement. And the Sefer Tomer Devora, it teaches me how to get closer to God by becoming a better person towards my fellow men. And we'll discuss that in a moment. Then it came the great Rabbi Haim of Sanz. The Divrei Haim of Sanz, he was the founding father of the Kloisenburg Hasidic dynasty, which I'm sure you have seen them in New Jersey and in Israel. The rabbi, the Kloisenburg rabbi that came to America, a holy man that regretfully his wife and 11 children were murdered in the Holocaust, and he came to America, and then he went to Israel, and he established the famous Laniado Hospital in the city of Netanya. So we need to understand that he saves bodies and he also saves souls. His great-grandfather, he was known as the Divrei Haim of Sanz, which was, I think, 2 generations after the Baal Shem Tov. He wrote, and it says, Mekubal meharav Agaon HaKadosh, Divrei Haim of Sanz, Zechuto Yagen Aleno. We have a tradition from the great and holy Gaon, the author of the Divrei Haim, the Halomed Basefer Hazeh, the one who studies this Sefer, Eno nifga mimahala hayedua rahamanan litzlan, will not be afflicted from the well-known disease, God forbid. And he's not referring to the COVID-19. He's referring to the one that has been hanging around people for many, many, many years, the 6-letter word that begins with a C and finishes with an R. And it says that a person that makes the effort to read this, Be'ezat Hashem, that will provide protection for the body and for the soul of the person. And you may ask, Rabbi, why? So I need to tell you the following. Reading the book, it's good and important, but that doesn't mean that a person will say, you know what, I'm not going to do anything medically, I'm just going to read the book. I don't want anyone, God forbid, to understand this from what I'm saying. You follow your medical doctor, your medical team, your medical advice, and besides that, you read the book. The book sometimes can create the miracle of disappearing the whole condition, or the book can help the person go through the treatment and Be'ezat Hashem not leaving any scars or any residue behind. But the bottom line is that this Sefer, the Divrei Chaim says, has so much holiness and brings such a level of self-improvement to the person that the change that the person can achieve or develop rather through the eternal lessons of this Sefer can reverse the internal damage or the internal danger that may exist in the body of a person. Why? Because this Sefer is all about changing. This Sefer is to help us develop our potential and understand what is our true mission in life. And with that introduction being said, what is our true mission of life? We are going to let Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, Zechuto Yagen Aleinu, Amen, that may be physically gone, but spiritually he's present with us today. And as I said before, the Pasuk says, actually I said this in the other class earlier today, the Pasuk, or in the Spanish class yesterday, Dovev Sifte Yeshenim, the murmuring, the movement of the lips of those that are sleeping. Those that are sleeping represents the concept of the Hachamim, meaning to say that even though Hachamim are gone from the world, especially in the names of the Hachamim that we mentioned, but the moment that we learn Torah, their neshama, so to speak, becomes reactivated. And not only that, the beautiful part of this is that now we have a partner in Shamayim, vouching for us, delivering our prayers, praying to the Almighty for our well-being. And guess what? That happens every time that there is a Hilulah or a Yortzeit of Tzaddikim, and that is the reason why many people, including myself, have the beautiful tradition of lighting a candle in memory of the Tzaddik, giving charity in his memory, and when possible, learn from his teaching and share them with a wonderful audience that is with us on a regular basis. Now, just one second. You know, one question that came up earlier today was, what is the meaning of the name of the book, Tomer Devora? What is the meaning? In English, literally means the palm tree of Devora. So I'll tell you what is our procedure in the synagogue in the morning. After prayer, nets, 1 or 2 halachot, 3 chapters of Tehillim, and most of the people leave. But we have a whole audience via Zoom that for many reasons may not be able to come to the synagogue to pray. Many of them are from different countries that their countries shut down and the synagogues have been closed for the past 3 or 4 months. Some of them are people that they are in Florida and they have different situations or conditions that doesn't enable them to come to the synagogue. But at the end of the prayer and the Tehillim, after saying good morning to everyone, we have like an open mic session. And questions come from the left field, from the right field, comments and halachot, etc. Beautiful. Baruch Hashem, and I'm very happy every day that we are able to do it, thank God. And one question came up today was, why was it called Tomer Devora? So someone from the audience that shall remain nameless gave a beautiful explanation. And then we'll tell you what else the Sefer says. If you look at the palm tree is a type of tree that a person that plants it is not guaranteed to be able to see the fruits 50, 60, 70 years later. The tree grows usually thin and tall. Especially in Florida, we have palm trees every block. So you understand what I'm referring to. And this is the life of a tzaddik. Tzaddik katamar ifrah. The righteous will flourish like the palm tree. The palm tree grows step by step, day after day, year after year, and at the end you see the end result. That is a tzaddik. It's a gradual growth and development. A person usually is not born a tzaddik. A person needs to become a tzaddik. Even the person may have great parents and Torah is roaming around the person's life, but if a person doesn't make the move and make the proper decisions, that will not really help him much. But when the person utilizes that, plus the person's effort, and above anything else, siyata dishmaya, heavenly help to grow, so then the person can grow as a palm tree. And that's what David HaMelech says in the book of Tehillim, or actually Adam Arishon, if you want to be technical, Tzaddik katamar ifrah. The righteous will flourish like the palm tree. So someone said something beautiful, that if you look at the palm tree, whatever the palm tree brings is useful, and there are berachot connected to it. From the leaves you do the schach, then you have the lulav, then you have the date that you say al ha'etz and you say borei peri ha'ez. In other words, it's a beautiful concept that there's so many berachot and mitzvot connected to the palm tree. I threw one more, the heart of palm. You have another beracha and you have another food item. So we understand that the palm is a very special type of tree from the spiritual perspective. Comes now the introduction of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero in the name of Tomer Devora. We must say that number one, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero does not bring openly why did he call the book Tomer Devora. Tomer, as I said, is the palm tree. Devora was one of the judges of Am Israel. It's found in the Aventura. What's so special about her? Short answer, that when she became the judge of Israel, she will meet people under the palm tree. Whenever someone had a halachic matter or a difficult situation, the person will go to her, and with Hashem's help, she will guide the person accordingly. But we also need to understand that there is a halacha known, the halacha of ihud, that a man cannot be secluded with a lady that is not his wife, his daughter, his mother, grandmother, etc. So in order to avoid this challenging situation, she set up a table and a chair in the field under the tree, and I believe there was somebody in front of her, like a shamosh or a secretary, so to speak, and that will be the procedure when somebody needed to ask a question. Now, comes the introduction to the Divrei Motzi Laor, and it says, Rabbi Fink, and it says as follows. The purpose of a person is to become Adam. What does it mean? This is the Gemara in Masechet Yevamot that says, Atem keruim Adam. Am Israel it's called the name of Adam. Interesting enough, the word Adam, or Ben Adam, the way we say it in Hebrew, means a human. But interesting enough, in the different names of Hebrew that you can say the same thing, for example, Ish, Gever, Adam, for example, Ish has singular and plural. Ish, Anashim. Gever, Gevarim. Gever is from Gibor, strong. So Gever, Gevarim. But when it comes to Adam, the Gemara writes, there is no such a thing as Adamim. We are all one. Atem Keruim Adam. So comes here, and it says, the Shalah Kadosh, Adame La'ilyon. It says, I will emulate Hakadosh Baruch Hu. And the question is, how do I get there? The Shalah HaKadosh says, by learning the Sefer Tomer Devora. And it goes even further. And it says, the same way, Rabbi Levi says in Gemara Sukkah, Ma tamar en lalev ehad, the same way that the palm tree has one trunk, one heart, also Am Israel, they have one heart directly connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it says the idea of Tomer Devora, according to one great sage, is the same gematria as Moshe Cordovero, the way I understood it. But at this moment, I'll think that it's important for us to move on and to truly understand the deep messages of Tomer Devora. I know that I gave you a long introduction, but I think that it's important to understand the details of the lives of the Tzaddikim. We don't come across Tzaddikim every day that we have so much information related to them. So Be'ezat Hashem, with that being said, let us read together from the opening statements of the Sefer Tomer Devora. And he begins chapter 1, Ha'adam ra'ui sheidame lekono. Ha'adam, he begins with the word Adam. Remember Adam Arishon? It says the person, means all of us, individually and collectively. Ra'ui sheidame lekono. We must emulate our Creator. The question is, how do we do that? Obviously, we are limited. Obviously, Hashem is Melech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy of Holies. En al milevado, there is nothing but godliness in the world. So how can I get close to God? So the short answer is that whenever we're going to be learning Be'ezat Hashem in the next few minutes, it needs to be organized in a level that is attainable for us. We're not asking you to become Moshe Rabbeinu. We're not asking you to become Sara Imenu. We're asking us to become us, to become the one that we have the potential of becoming. So here he brings a very interesting concept, because in the Torah we have one pasuk that says, Lalechet bidrachav, to walk in the footsteps of God. Lalechet bechol derachav. And it says, is this a mitzvah? Or is a suggestion? Or is mandatory? According to the Pirush on the Tomer Devora, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero says, שהחיוב הוא חיוב שכלי. It says it makes sense that a person learns from God's actions what is expected from me as a person. What does it mean? Remember when we learn 2 weeks ago the mitzvah of the para aduma. And we asked the question, why, when it comes to the mitzvah of the para aduma, the Torah says, Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe bel Aharon lemor. We ask why Aharon is mentioned in this particular mitzvah. First of all, Aharon HaKohen passes away in the very same parasha. Number two, the next pasuk says later on, Belakach el Azar HaKohen. So we're talking about already el Azar HaKohen. So why Aharon is invited to this commandment? So we answer in the name of the Birkat Hashem that he says that the Torah is teaching us that a person must understand that the mitzvot in our life that create a strong bonding with the Almighty is not only mitzvot connected to Moshe Rabbeinu, which means mitzvot of spiritual nature that connect us with God, but actually part of the connection with God is to also do the mitzvot of Aharon HaKohen. And you already know the answer. What was the mitzvah of Aharon HaKohen? Ben Adam lahabero. Interpersonal relationships. And this is what Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, Zechuto Yagen Alenu, will be teaching us a couple of lessons, powerful lessons, to give us the opportunity to become godly in a human limited fashion. Now, in the Torah, Rashi asks, how is it possible that a person walks in the footsteps of God? It's impossible. For whatever reason it is, physical, spiritual, etc. But Rashi says, no. You think that is difficult, but is attainable. Rashi says, Mahu rahum afata rahum. The same way that Hashem is compassionate, we should be compassionate. Like Hashem visits the sick, we should visit the sick. Like Hashem takes care of the widows and the destitute and the orphans, we should do the same. And that is, in a nutshell, what these two words, which according to some opinion is a mitzvah from the Torah, according to Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, he says, should be a way of life. In other words, it's not optional. When you have a Torah mitzvah, you may say, I do it, I don't do it. If I do the mitzvah, fine. If I don't do the mitzvah, okay. Rabbi Moshe Cordovero says, no, this is not a multiple choice answer. Yes, no, maybe, all of the above. It said this is a mandatory requirement that a person who wants to maximize to the best of their abilities their existence in the world, we need to be proper ambassadors of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. So if we go through the Sefer, through the Jas, obviously in the month of Elul, we do a much deeper reading, but give me one more introduction on the topics that the Sefer Devora, Tomer Devora rather, it's based on the pasuk that we say in the prayer of Rosh Hashanah day, the prayer of Tashrich. We go to the waterfront and we say the prayer, and we say, Mi el kamocha, noseh avon ve'ober al pesha, who is like you, Hashem, that removes iniquities, etc., which in a way, that is the Yod Gimel Midot HaRahamim. That is connected to the 13th attributes of justice, or Mehila, the 13 attributes of mercy. I apologize for that. Yod Gimel Midot HaRahamim, that this is how HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world, to our advantage, to our benefit. Can you imagine, God forbid, if Hashem will run the world with the attribute of Din, the attributes of justice, and judgment, and for every good deed, reward, for every negative deed, punishment, God forbid. So Hashem has so much mercy that there is a way that God runs the world in such a fashion. And this is the introduction, or the foundation rather, that's the proper word. This is the foundation of the Sefer Tomer Devora. So it begins and it says, how do you feel, how do you think rather, that God feels every time a person does an avon? Not happy. Not happy. He feels like we betrayed him, so to speak. So that betrayal, technically speaking, should be responded with judgment, with a wake-up call. Especially that a person creates negative angels or negative forces in the world that changes the history of the world. Like it or not, we cannot separate the physical from the spiritual, at least not from a Jewish perspective. And yet, what do we see? That even when people act wild and act crazy and act out of line and act inappropriately, or they act in ways which they are transgressing commandments left and right, we see that they remain alive. We see that the cars are in their driveway. We see that they have the beautiful homes and they travel on vacation, whenever that meant in those days. And we don't see major changes in their life. And the question is, why not? God is not watching. God doesn't see. And I'm sure that there are many answers to this question. But we're not going to concentrate today with the many answers. We're going to concentrate just in one paragraph of the first chapter of Tomer Devora. And it says, Tomer Devora, Hamidah Shehadam Leitnaheg Ba. The foundation of the positive character trait that God activates when situations of this nature that I just described are in front of him, it says, Hasablanut. Remember Sablanut? What's the meaning of Sablanut? I'm sure you know the answer, right? Tolerance. Tolerance. God says, I let you go. I let you go. I let you go. How many times? I don't have the answer. I do not have the answer. To some people could be 5 times. To some people could be 5 years. To some people could be 25 years. I do not have the answer, and I don't think that no average person can tell us how much patience Borei Olam has. But I'll tell you one thing. Borei Olam, Baruch Hashem, has a lot of patience with us. And so what is the message now? The message is, at the end of chapter 1 and chapter 2, that the same way that Hashem has tolerance for us, even though we wronged him, because every time we sin, is like slapping God in the face. It's like somebody gives you, you gave someone a gift, and that person uses the gift against you. How will you feel? Will you give a gift to that person? Most of us will say, for sure not, Rabbi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you know what? I believe in you. I believe that you have the power and the potential to change. And if you remember the other day, in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, we learned how important is self-esteem. That a person should not despair and to say there is no hope for me, but actually do the best that you can and try the best effort. Now, just to understand quickly how important is patience and tolerance, let's welcome the Pelei Yoes, another great giant who lived maybe 2 centuries after Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, a great Sephardic giant by the name of Rabbi Eliezer Papo. And it says in the letter Samech of the Pelei Yoes, which is based in the Hebrew alphabet, Sablanut, Matov Humanaim. He begins with an exclamatory point. He says, patience, tolerance, how wonderful it is, how pleasant it is, how beautiful it is. Bezo midat tova sericha lechol adam. He says, this is not an option. Every human being must have tolerance and discipline. Hagadol lefi godlo, be'akatan lefi kotno. You just need to measure it. Each person on their scenarios. He speaks about rabbis, teachers, community leaders, that they must expand their tolerance and their patience. Because if a leader has no tolerance and no patience, guess what? He will not be able to be a leader for Am Israel or for their community. That was one of the reasons why the sons of Ishai, great tzaddikim, great Bnei Torah, they were rejected by God to be the kings of Israel after the removal of the kingdom by King Shaul, of King Shaul by Shmuel and Navi. And God says, how can I put you in a position of leadership if you have no tolerance, if you have no patience? You're going to execute people left and right. You're going to do shahita. I don't want to have another Pinhas. Pinhas was one. He saved the day, and that was it. And it says, parenting, marriage, as it says, kama gevura, many times, it says here, sarich pelez umoshne mishpat beshikul da'at beshekel hakodesh. Yani, he writes it in such a poetic Hebrew, and it says, you need to calibrate, you need to measure, you need to calculate, and you need to make a rational calculation of your intellect and your wisdom with the holiest coin of the Bet HaMikdash. When do we hear such a thing? And it says, and you need to learn how to determine if I say something or I stay quiet. And if I say something, how will I say it? Will I take a bazooka to say something? Or I will say, we'll talk about it later. It says that comes from the sablanut and the tolerance, the patience and the tolerance of the person. And the more patient and tolerant we become, it seems that Hashem will reciprocate that towards us. And it says, Bekama Gevura. And it says, concerning your reaction, your compulsiveness, which is the opposite of Savlanut. Savlanut, it's closer to Mevater. Let it go, being easygoing. Compulsiveness is completely the opposite. You have zero tolerance. You have zero patience. And then it says, Achelo di Barta, as long as we stay quiet and we didn't say a word, Hadibura Sirecha, my words are in my captivity, I have the key. Keshedibarta, ata asiro. But once the words came out, now we became the prisoner of the words, meaning to say you got to deal with the consequences of the words or comment being made. And therefore it says, even though when your heart internally it's burning and the words want to come out of it, it says, Itgaber ka'ari. Try to activate the message of Tomer Devora today. Sablanut, self-control, And it goes on and it says, Kule alma yad'e שהסבלנות הוא טוב מאוד. It says no one denies and no one can deny that patience and tolerance, it's very beneficial. It's beneficial for Shalom Bayit. It's beneficial for harmony between the people. It's beneficial for synagogues. It's beneficial for teachers, for rabbis, etc. And as I said before, the idea of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero is by telling us, be godly. And if you follow what we learned today, we did not mention anything about religion, about commandments, what to do, what not to do, what's permissible, what's forbidden. Today we discuss on the level of self-improvement of us as people, as individuals. And it says, even if somebody did something towards us that is not appropriate, activate that godly measurement. I'm not saying that it's automatic and it's easy. Under certain situations that a reaction is mandatory. But let's be honest here. How many times we get into an argument or we go into fights, even in the Shalom Bayit department, simply because there is no patience, and there is no tolerance, and there is no acceptance, and many times words hurt. And has v'shalom, that could be the beginning of a marital downfall, etc. And he goes on to reinforce this particular concept, but I think that we deliver a powerful message on his behalf. So Be'ezat Hashem, Kahal Kadosh, let us hope and pray that the zechut of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero prays on our behalf in Shamayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu give refuah shelema to Nehamadina bat Batya and Rabbi Aharon Mas'ud ben Sulika among the Cholim of Am Israel. And as I said before, if you haven't done so, light a candle in memory of the great rabbi, make your personal prayer. Since we have Baruch Hashem and Melitz Yosher, we have today on our corner a wonderful advocate that I'm sure that is very, very happy to see how thousands of people today are learning and listening words to the great Tomer Devora book. So Be'ezat Hashem, the best gift that we can give the neshama of the great righteous Rabbi Moshe Alav Shalom is basically trying to take upon ourselves some of the beautiful messages that we have shared for the past 45 minutes. I'd like to wish everybody to have a beautiful day. Aslaha Rabbah, and we'll see each other Be'ezat Hashem. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.